And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enter the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers."
Welcome to San Diego, California. Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with the head. Intercepted at the 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time. Throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw. Throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open. Makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. I want to hear cannons. The snap to Brady. Brady looking. He may run. Brady has got a hurdle. He's got a first down inside the 25, and he slides at the 22.
He's fired up.
Tom Brady runs for a first down.
Here's the snap. Brady hands the ball off, running to the left. It's Fournette inside the 25. Stiff arm to the 20. On his feet to the 15, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Leonard Fournette. Touchdown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Whoa, is that the dagger? I hope so, with 20 seconds left.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me in person this week, my good buddy and co-host, returning from suspension. A lot of people have been asking us where you've been, what's going on with that. I don't know if we can get into the details of that today, but ladies and gentlemen, the Philly Bucs fan himself from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish, is here as we celebrate 300 episodes of this little show we call the Cannon Fire Podcast. James Hill of BucsNation.com is also here as we ring in this momentous occasion, and we also preview the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 10 matchup with the Seattle Seahawks in Munich, Germany, the first time an NFL game has been played there. So a lot of history this week, if you will. Boys, how you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, I'm happy to be unsuspended. I served my suspension. I didn't even try to appeal it, honestly. What I did was, we won't talk about it. We're not going to speak about it. Yeah, I'm doing well, though. Happy to be back. But yeah, we had a lot of great content while I was gone. Derek Fournier, What the Buck was on, and that was a great show. So, yeah, now we're here with, obviously you and James trying not to get sunburnt. And so happy to be previewing this game after a much-needed Bucs win. I wasn't able to talk about it at all, but much-needed win for this team last week.
Yeah, you were there in person inside Raymond James Stadium. So I got to ask, what was that atmosphere like? I know a lot of people left the game early, which may have cut down on the crowd noise at the very end of the game. But it's been a minute since we have seen some Tom Brady magic inside Raymond James.
Yeah, it was a lot of people, they stuck in until the end, until that 4th and goal. Once the Bucs didn't get that 4th and goal there with about a minute 45 left or so, a lot of people ended up leaving. It was a crazy atmosphere, though, really. The final, I'd say, 5 minutes of the game, a lot of the game was quiet, but the final 5 minutes or so of the game was pretty electric, and fantastic finish that was very stressful and very surprising, that they were able to pull that off in just that short amount of time and be able to get the win that they needed so desperately there.
Yeah, here we are this week with the Buccaneers in Germany sitting at 4-5. James, I want to get your take as we open up this show. The major thing coming into this week is, can the Bucs continue their turnaround? Because, we talk about that game against the Rams. It wasn't that high of a final score. It wasn't an offensive explosion by either team. And, those were two struggling offenses going into that game looking for more answers. And we saw some late game heroics by Tom Brady, which lets you know he's still got plenty of gas left in the tank. But I don't know I don't know how many answers we got questions we got answered on the offensive side of the ball. So James, with the Bucs at 4-5, what is your take with this team, especially the offense in particular, coming off of last week's game? Because it was a slog for 3.5 quarters until they finally pulled it out when they needed to.
Yeah, I think with, when we talked about this after the Rams game where, look, it was a win, but it was just the Bucs, a situation where the Bucs were just a little bit less worse on offense than the Rams. They still weren't necessarily lighting the world on fire or anything on offense. So I think whenever you look at this team and you talk about a turnaround and potentially winning this game in Germany against the Seahawks, you still have to question this offense and what's going on with it in terms of efficiency and play calling and all these other different types of things that have still been issues. Just because they beat the Rams, does not mean that those issues are just not there anymore. In fact, they're still very, very present, and that is kind of the biggest takeaway from the Rams game was, yes, they won, but there's still some issues here, and we're going to have to just continue to wait and see, as fans have been doing throughout the entire season so far, to see if they can finally fix those issues on offense that they've been having, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, and listen, the fact of the matter is we're not the only people who have been critical on the offense this far this year. Byron Leftwich has been in the hot seat with most fans for most of the season at this point, but Bucs quarterback Tom Brady was on the Let's Go podcast this week, and, I won't say that he's ever been one to mince words, but I mean, he called this team out, fair and simple. He had mentioned that the lack of effort is probably one of the more embarrassing things on this Bucs team in 2022. And to be honest with you guys, we've talked a lot about this, with the loss to Carolina, with the loss to Pittsburgh. Effort was a real conversation that was had. And now that a lot of people can feel more secure in thinking, I'm definitely not the only one that sees it. We talk about the Buccaneers continuing their turnaround this week. The Seahawks are an incredibly well-coached team. They sit there with a 6-3 record with Geno Smith at quarterback, and I think Pete Carroll has a hell of a lot to do with that. So, we look at the challenge that is Seattle, but if this Bucs team plays up to the level we know that they can totally beat the Seahawks team, even though they're at 6-3. And maybe I'm a little overconfident in feeling that way. Like maybe the joke's on me this week where I think we can learn to put a little more effort in and carry some of this offensive momentum, because I think hopefully, I know I'm not the only person that feels this way, but I think a lot of people hope that at the end of the year, we can look at that game-winning drive against the Rams as, kind of a turning point in the season for Tampa Bay. Me and James were talking about it on the ride up here. When you talk about the 2020 Super Bowl team, a lot of people look at that turnaround point as halftime against the Falcons in Atlanta when they're getting beat by multiple possessions to a team that they should be playing better. That's when everybody kind of got their head out of their ass and started playing the Bucs football that we know and love, and they didn't lose a game after that. So I hope the effort kicks in this week, but I mean, I don't know. What do you think has to go right? Because Tom Brady being critical of your team, I didn't think that was the point we'd have to reach before, some people started to realize maybe they need to put it together.
Well, the crazy thing is, this is the first year they've beaten the Saints and the Rams and it's they're still a losing record. It's crazy how that's gone. Because if you would have said before the year, oh, they're going to beat the Saints in their first matchup in New Orleans, and then they're going to beat the Rams again, two teams that have really been a thorn in their side, but they're still going to have a losing record, I would have said, like, what are you talking about, you know? And you're right about the effort. And when you look at effort, you do look at those two games, the Pittsburgh and the Carolina game, playing down the competition, playing down to the opponent. Those are two critical games now. You win both of those games, you're completely looking at this entire season differently so far.
I mean, if you win one of those games, you go into this game with a positive record, and not everybody feels like the world is ending, you know?
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's unfortunate, but, you know, they've gotten themselves in this situation, so now it's on them to get themselves out of it. Nobody's going to, you know, sit there and wave their wand and, oh, that Pittsburgh game's suddenly a win. You know, nobody's going to do that. So, yeah, they're going to have to. It's not going to be easy. They play a lot of good teams on their schedule. We knew what the schedule was heading in. Is Seattle a surprise team? Yeah. You kind of looked at this game when the schedule first came out and was like, oh, you know, Seattle might be able to, that might be a 10-point win, you know, a 14-point win. Now, they're playing some good ball. So, they're, like you said, they're well coached. So I think it's going to be a challenge, but we'll see if the Bucs are able to win two straight for the first time since they started the season 2-0.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, coming into this game, the Bucs are favored for another week in a row. I haven't checked the latest lines, but the last thing I saw is Bucs -3. And, you know, I think for a lot of bettors, what it's going to come down to is people believing in Tom Brady over Geno Smith at the end of the day. But, James, let me get your take on this Bucs offense this week. And, you know, aside from the effort, what do you think has to change the most heading into this game against heading into this game against Seattle in Germany?
Well, you know, I really think that in terms of the offense, you just got to put your guys in the best position to succeed. You know, we've seen some struggles with the running back, you know, especially Leonard Fournette. I made a video talking about that on my channel. Maybe it's time to change some things up, see more Rachaad White moving forward. In terms of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, maybe even Julio Jones a little bit. Just use those guys, accentuate their strengths. And we've seen that a lot with Mike Evans throughout this season, but I feel like we haven't seen it as much with Godwin. And of course, Julio Jones has been hurt. So that's kind of what I want to see more of in terms of improvement. I think just putting your guys in the best positions to succeed. And I think a lot of that falls into play calling as well as some execution as well. So that's kind of the biggest thing I want to see some improvements on and things that they can do to make things better for their offense, and also red zone efficiency. I mean, you know, play calling's been an issue. A lot of people have been critical about that. Execution in the red zone has been a big issue as well. That's going to help out the offense loads. If they start scoring touchdowns instead of settling for field goals, you're going to see a very similar offense to what we've seen in the past couple of seasons in terms of scoring points. So that's kind of what I look for, is just better efficiency, better execution, maybe a little bit of better play calling. I know that can be subjective, but especially some better, you know, red zone efficiency, I think, is the biggest thing that they need to improve on.
I know we had mentioned it briefly on the pod this week, but I want to dive a little more into the report about Leonard Fournette kind of losing his cool on the sidelines last week after being taken out in favor of Rachaad White. Now, I know Lenny was back in the game for the game-winning drive. He was back out there, and to be honest, I think that may come down to a Tom Brady preference more than anything, because if you are Tom Brady, who are you going to trust to check the ball down more to? I know that Rachaad White is a rookie, and he's starting to get more reps, but when the game is on the line, and let's say there's a crucial pass block, you know, Rachaad White has had his issues with the pass block so far this season. Lenny is more of a sure option, picking up the blitz and keeping him safe. But what do you guys make of that with Leonard Fournette? This is a guy that the Bucs just paid a 3-year contract, $7 million a year. That's pretty rich for a running back. And I know the offensive line has a hell of a lot to do with it, but Lenny has not been the Leonard Fournette that they paid so far this year. Week 1, he looked good. And ever since then, you know, with the offensive struggles that they have had, a lot of it has come from the run game. And listen, situational, it's tough for Lenny when he's not running the ball at the best moments he can, but it's also on him to pick up a 3rd and 1 when they put him down. So I know the cops are coming. They're probably coming to get you. I don't know if you guys can hear that. We got the police sirens back behind us. That's the beauty of doing the live stream today on location. And that's what happens. That's what we get for letting this guy off a suspension a little early. But what do you make of Leonard Fournette and, you know, Rachaad White, of all people, having to calm him down? Do you think we do continue to see more of Rachaad White in this game plan this week? I know a lot of people want that to happen. And honestly, the last thing you want from an optic standpoint is the rookie having to calm down the veteran leader who you just paid.
Yeah, we've seen this before with Fournette. During the 2020 season, they were this close to cutting him. I mean, Bruce Arians flat out said, if you want to be released, you say the word, and it's going to happen. It got to that point. So Fournette's a talented player. I don't think anybody's going to question his talent, but it hasn't worked so far. And like Rachaad White has looked good. Like has he lit the world on fire? No, but like he has looked good and looks like he belongs in the NFL. And I think he has gotten increased snaps, increased reps. And with that, he's taken on that role well. The cops are really after me. They are not happy about my take here. I think, Rachaad White in this offense, especially in tomorrow's game, I think you could see a lot more of him. And who knows what the future holds for Leonard Fournette. He's obviously not going to get cut or anything, but you'd like to see a little bit of a different attitude out of a guy who, like you said, you just paid, and a guy who is, he's not a young guy. He's a veteran now. He's been around the block a few times, so you'd like to see a little bit of a better attitude there.
And unfortunately, too, I mean, for Lenny, I don't want to come to conclusions on a player's character because you can do that on the offseason. We're focused on winning football games. At least the Buccaneers are right now. But, this was a problem for him in Jacksonville. Like that's why they let him go for peanuts, because they simply just didn't.
They cut him.
Yeah, they didn't want him around anymore. They said, all right, man, if your attitude is going to reflect, the record of the team, like it shouldn't be that way. It is a team first mentality. And I think maybe there are some guys in this Buccaneers roster who still have a little bit of growing up and some learning to do. But James, let me get your take on Rachaad White in this offense this week. What do you like from him? What do you not like? And do you think we see a little more of him this week?
Well, firstly, in the case of Rachaad White, I think that he has looked good in certain situations. What I do like from him, from what we've seen, is the patience. It seems like he's having better vision than maybe Leonard Fournette has had so far throughout, certain situations in terms of hitting the hole, being a little bit more patient. We've talked about this before where his play style kind of reminds me, obviously not one-to-one, but kind of like a guy of like maybe a Le'Veon Bell, where it's like more patient and things along those lines, and just kind of utilizing more vision in terms of his running. So that's what I think is a good thing to see out of him. I do think we will see more of him just because, he has been able to show up in certain situations and has looked good in those situations. And I think that that's the right move. I was looking at the stats right here, and I talked about this with Trevor Sikkema over on my channel from Pro Football Focus, and we both questioned, like, dude, Fournette, what are you mad about? Like, you have 121 carries to Rachaad White's 38. You have 49 targets to Rachaad White's 25. You're playing 65% of the snaps in a game at minimum. 60% maybe at the bare minimum. What are you mad about, my man? It's like, what do you want? Do you want like 100 carries a game? Obviously, I'm joking there, but like the point being is that, the biggest thing that's stopping Fournette right now from getting more targets and getting more opportunities and carries, whatever it may be, is himself and his overall play. If he plays better, he's probably going to get some more opportunities moving forward. But you also got to remember, especially if you're Fournette, I'm not saying he doesn't realize this, but dude, it's running back by committee in today's NFL. That's just how it works. I don't care who you are at running back. You're going to have a number two who's going to get some opportunities. You see that with every team around the league, unless you're Derrick Henry or something along those lines. But point being is that, yeah, this happens in the NFL, and it's just a really weird situation. It kind of has me a little bit puzzled just to say, like, what's he so upset about? But I don't think it's going to change, because they asked Todd Bowles about it, and he said, nope, I like what we have going right now. So, that's what I think is going to happen, is we are going to see more Rachaad White. And heck, if Rachaad White keeps on doing good and Leonard Fournette continues to struggle a little bit, maybe it does turn into a 50-50 type split. I don't necessarily know if it would ever turn into like a 60-40 in favor of Rachaad White. But, again, like, Fournette definitely needs to, I think, prove himself a little bit more and certainly make the most of his opportunities. And he still has a lot of those opportunities. So it's definitely a weird situation to find out he was that frustrated with only not getting a couple more touches. Really weird.
Our buddy Willie Beeman in the chat brought up a great point here. He says, the running back position is a coin flip for me. I don't see anyone consistently breaking for 10 to 20-yard runs this season. Hopefully things will continue to pick up as the season goes on. He also mentioned they got to continue to run the ball behind Nick Leverett. Run blocking seems like his specialty on film, and that's the next position I wanted to talk about is this offensive line. I mean, maybe as they get more consistent with Leverett out of that left guard position, for the past 2 weeks, he's been one of the highest rated players on the offensive side of the ball. So it's safe to say that he is a little bit better at playing that left guard position than Luke Gedeke would have been by this time in the season. But does that bring new life into the run game? I don't know. But I'm hoping they can stay consistent because honestly, while the run blocking hasn't entirely been what we wanted with last week, they kind of gave up on the run later on in the game. I think the more consistency they get, it can bring some new life into this offense. And, they've been protecting Tom pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference you're seeing with Gedeke to Leverett is the pass blocking. I think the pass protection has been a little bit better. Trying to fan yourself from evade defenders. I think Leverett has came in and he's done his job. Now, can he do it consistently? We'll have to wait and see. Luke Gedeke's already out for this game, so it's not like there's any debate there. It's going to be Nick Leverett again. So if he can continue this, they have the bye week next week. They may have to make a decision on who they're going to have moving forward, even when Gedeke's healthy. So I do think the offense has looked a little bit better, more specifically in pass protection. We talk about Fournette and everything, but to me, it's Fournette being productive, but also the offensive line in front of him being productive because not everybody's, if you're being tackled as soon as you get the football, you're not going to do much with it. So I think both of it goes hand in hand, and both the offense still isn't playing well enough. I mean, we're going to make that clear.
Yeah, to be honest, they got to be better on third down regardless. Run,
down,
pass.
Red zone. It don't matter. Yeah, what it is, short yardage situation, whatever it may be. They haven't been good enough. But the pass protection, more specifically, has been much better. So, hopefully they're able to continue to ride the wave. Leverett's able to continue his momentum, and maybe he can turn this into something that could really help this offense down the line here.
That was actually one of the biggest criticisms that I've had for Byron Leftwich throughout this season was the handling of the left guard position. I feel like he put Luke Gedeke, and it's not specifically on Byron Leftwich, of course, but I definitely feel like the Bucs, it's pretty clear that Leverett you put Gedeke in a bad spot. After week one, you kind of knew what the circumstances were and you didn't make that switch. You stuck with it. It wasn't working. And there was just some stubbornness there. And now that we've seen this switch made, like what you said, Evan, almost by necessity, could it be permanent now? Well, I think that's a pretty positive distinction. I actually wrote about this on Bucs Nation this week where, the X factor, the guy who maybe needs to step up is Nick Leverett, and if he has a really good game, hey, he could very well earn himself that starting job the rest of the season. And I think that one thing that we saw that I think was adding a little bit of juice was a couple of plays last week's game. Leverett, he had a tough matchup against Aaron Donald. That's tough for anybody. But he's going in, he's finishing the play, he's running around, he's protecting his guys, he's bringing some juice, he's bringing a little bit of fire. I know I saw it on at least one play, maybe two. So that's kind of maybe something you're seeing a little bit different there from a guy who's hungry for that opportunity.
And realistically, as hindsight's always 20/20, how much of a problem was Aaron Donald last week for Tampa Bay? I mean, even though this Rams team has had Tampa Bay's number up until last week, Aaron Donald has never been that much of a threat to Tom Brady. I mean, he's maybe hit him 2 or 3 times in the 4 games that they've played now.
Yeah, I think he had the sack on the 4th down. I think, but other than that, it wasn't like he went out there and it was completely dominated them every single snap.
Right, he wasn't wrecking the game by any means.
Yeah, so which we obviously know he can do. But so I mean, they played well enough against him, and a guy like that, he's gonna get his. You just have to limit it. So, they did a good job, and hopefully, a guy like Leverett can continue up, this play because the longer it happens, the more consistent he is, the more it's going to help the offense. So,
as we talk about some of the tweaks on the offensive side of the ball going forward for this season, we mentioned the running back position with Rashad White and Leonard Fournette. Now, I think we can all agree here that at no point this season is Rashad White going to be your bona fide RB1 barring injury, but we also spoke to the stubbornness of this coaching staff. And I know you guys are sitting here suffering in the sun. They call it the Sunshine State for a reason down here. But we speak to the stubbornness of this coaching staff, and I hate to put it that way, but by week 10 in the season, we have come to the conclusion that is what is happening with certain things. We just talked about Luke Gedeke playing in that left guard spot for as long as he can. I think this week is a big week for Nick Leverett. We talk a lot with Sean King about consistency and guys like that. He's a backup depth piece. Is he going to get exposed this week, making his third start in a row? I don't know. If he doesn't, that's going to go a long way as well. But some of the changes needed on the offensive side of the ball, better running, changing their approach to the run game, maybe a little more Rashad White in certain situations. And we'll talk about some other potential offensive stars that I think need to be in this offense a little more here in the next segment. But, has this coaching staff shown you that they can make these changes if they have to? I mean, moving forward, they only made Nick Leverett the left guard because of injury. So, how much can we trust them to, for example, maybe play a little more Cade Otton, maybe not send Julio Jones on a jet sweep ever again? Can we count on them to do those things?
Well, the interesting thing about the Cade Otton is here's a case where a guy, Cameron Brate goes down with injury, comes back, and then gets injured again. It's unfortunate for Cam, but Cade Otton is making the most of his opportunities, and I haven't really had a chance to comment on it at all, but he was a big reason why they won that football game last week. Might have been like a top two reason, maybe him and Jake Camarda. You're talking about two rookies there. So I think it helps when you have a young guy like that step up. I can't see why Cameron Brate would be a tight end one when he comes back. I don't know when that's going to be, but I can't see why he would. To me, Cade Otton's earned that job. We're seeing it maybe a little bit with the running backs here. We just talked about Rashad White maybe getting a little bit. So that's some tweaks you're seeing, but I don't know, because that's personnel stuff. As far as organization and play calling and scheme, they haven't really changed a whole lot. And that's the concerning thing. And I'm not sure if this offensive staff, I think they can. I just don't know if they're going to. You talked about the stubbornness. And I think that's the bigger issue with the team. Not so much the personnel. I think it's the stubbornness of trying to stick with what works, but it hasn't worked. That's the problem. And if they really want to turn this thing around in a big, that win was good, but if they really want to turn this around in a big way, changes are still going to have to be made in just the philosophy of the offense overall.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about the offensive issues. One of those being their ability to score points, I think is the biggest problem most people can look at with this Bucs team in 2022. But as we look over at the other side of the football here and continue to wrap up this game preview episode of the Cannon Fire podcast, this defense, we got to give them some praise. I know the run defense has been bad, has been historically bad, and that is not the standard that the Bucs have set for themselves over the last 3 years on the defensive side of the ball. But the fact of the matter is, I think this Bucs run defense is a victim of an offense that can't score any points. You know what I mean? When you are gassed because the Baltimore Ravens have 40 minutes at the end of the game in time of possession, it's hard to put all of that onto your defense. And I think so far, statistically, in a lot of categories, they are better than they ever have been, especially during the Tom Brady era. I mean, in pass coverage, I know that they are a top 10 unit in the NFL. They are a top 5 unit in the NFL in sacks. They have actually been getting after the quarterback, which has been an issue with what a lot of people thought were better pass rushes over the last couple of years. They've been getting to the quarterback this year. You know what I mean? I will say we need a takeaway. And I think when you're starving for one like they have been, this has got to be the week to do it. But even without takeaways, they have been one of the better units in the NFL, and they need an offense that, cannot leave them out on the field for 40 minutes a game. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you talk about the takeaway. I think that's one way they can help the offense, give the offense a short field. The Bucs have not had a takeaway since the fourth quarter of week 4. So we're almost approaching that was early October. It's about a month and a half now that they haven't had a turnover. It's remarkable. It really is. Now, the flip side of that is the offense hasn't really turned it over much. So, they're playing the style of football that's kind of boring. But, the defense is getting the job done. We talked about, the pass rush, how that would be without a guy like Shaq Barrett. I haven't talked about it yet. We didn't even know for sure. We had an idea on the post-game show against Baltimore, but we didn't know for sure. And Shaq Barrett's done for the year. He's not coming back. So pass rushers are going to have to step up. And on Sunday, it was Vita Vea getting 2, Nacho getting 1, Jannard Avery even getting 1, which was really caused by Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. He got the first pressure. Still can't finish. He's going to have to do better at that. But I think this pass rush is going to be a real key on Sunday. Geno Smith's a mobile quarterback. He's a lot more mobile than Matthew Stafford. He's a lot more mobile than a Kenny Pickett or even a P.J. Walker, who they just faced. And, I mean, P.J. Walker can run. He's not quite Lamar Jackson, but when I was watching Geno Smith earlier this year, I was like, man, I don't remember this guy being like this elusive. I don't know what Geno Smith this is, but if he played for the Jets, he'd still be on the Jets if he was playing like this, a few years ago. But, they're going to have to be good, and I think, they're going to have to get a takeaway in this game. It's overdue at this point. It's starting to get, comical that they can't even luck into one, some guys just luck into one, and they haven't even been able to do that. But hopefully the defense, after a strong performance against the Rams offensive unit is not what it used to be. But Sean McVay's had their number, and it was a positive sign last Sunday that the Rams didn't go out there and they cured all their problems right against the Bucs defense. So that was a positive sign. Hopefully that can carry over against the Seattle offense that has been on fire.
You mentioned the defense, and you mentioned him briefly, but I want to talk about Vita Vea, a guy in particular who has really, really stepped up this week. James, you and I were talking about it on the way up here. Big number 50, 6.5 sacks on the year, leads the team in sacks. The Bucs just paid him a fat contract, so they love to see this production. And the fact that he was able to step up the last 2-3 weeks, in particular with the absence of Akeem Hicks, he looked even better with Big 96 back out there. So, James, what are your thoughts on just this defense kind of stepping up and Vita Vea in particular this year?
Yeah, Vita Vea has looked pretty good so far. I know he had a pretty slow start to the year, right? We've talked about that, where he definitely had a slow start to the season, but he's on a pretty incredible stretch right now where I'm going to be making a whole video talking about that because he's looked great. I mean, he really has been able to show up in a lot of big ways. Like you said, 6.5 sacks. Evan, you said for a big guy, I mean,
if he hits double-digit sacks before the end of the year, what more could you have asked from this guy after, dropping the bag on him the way that they did?
I mean, there's how many games have played so far? 9, right? So there's I'm bad at math. There's 17 games. So, I mean, he's got a lot more opportunities. He's got the bye week coming up, but he's got a lot more opportunities. And 6.5 sacks at this point in the season is really good. It's a quiet 6.5, though. It doesn't feel like he has 6.5 sacks. Yeah, he's been better, but it doesn't feel like he's had that amount of sacks so far.
Yeah, I mean, I even did research yesterday, I believe.
You did research?
Surprisingly.
Okay.
And I think he's third for sacks for defensive tackles right now. He has a sack and a half more than Aaron Donald. So just kind of taking and looking at it like that.
He's better than Aaron Donald, will you tell me?
I mean, you said it, not me.
Conclusion we can come to after the podcast today. Vita Vea greater than Aaron Donald.
Point being, though, is that, Vita Vea is playing some really good football, and it's the best we've seen him look as a pass rusher, I think, in his entire career. And if this is going to be more of what Vita Vea is for, his career, yeah, let's sign me up. Let's go. But, that...
Well, and I'll even take the lack of run defense if you're going to get me close to 10 sacks a year from the interior. So
right. And, like what you said, Rhett, the presence of Akeem Hicks is going to certainly help. And this defense has been playing some really good football. I think that in most games this year, whenever we do post-game shows or review shows, whatever it may be, and I know I've said it on my channel, you guys have said it on your channel, where it's like the defense... it's always at worst. It's like, yeah, they did okay, in a loss or something along those lines. Like they've been pretty consistent this year in terms of having at least okay play. And now it seems like, if they are able to get an offense that's complementary to them, like what you were saying, Rhett, they'd be one of the top defenses in the league. They already are kind of towards that point.
They would literally be so much better, at least like it regarded around the NFL. Even when casual people talk about top defenses in the NFL, if they had an offense that could score points, the Bucs would have won 3 more games than they have at this point.
Well, and you know, Evan, I know you had said, you know, hey, they luck into it. They haven't had a takeaway in a month and a half. You know, that's because, I mean, quite frankly, these opposing offenses don't necessarily have a ton of pressure on them because the Bucs offense isn't scoring a ton of points to put that pressure on them. Yeah. So maybe that is a factor that plays into it, possibly. But like what you said, Rhett, both of you said, you know, this defense has been playing some really good football, especially guys like Vita Vea who are stepping up, Akeem Hicks. They're getting healthier, you know, which is huge as well. And
Carlton Davis was back. Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to be back for this game. He cleared concussion protocol, so missed the past 2 games. He's going to be back for this one. Did he miss Carolina or not? I don't remember.
No.
Okay.
He
I thought it happened in Carolina, but so he missed the last 2 games. I mean, this is a really good safety as they're going to be getting back. So, yeah, the defense is getting healthier. Like, you know, finally got Akeem Hicks healthy. Hopefully that can even help Vita Vea even more. The one game with Hicks back in the lineup, Vita Vea had 2 sacks. So, hopefully that helps the entire defensive line. And this defense could be, I'm going to keep harping it though, like they could be special if they could take the ball away. Like they're going to have to find a way to do it because, like, yeah, you're not going to win every game 16-13. Like, there's going to be some offenses that are going to be able to put you away. Like, and when the Bucs offense is struggling like they have, sometimes the remedy is just to give them some short fields. Give them 20, 25 yards to go so they don't have to go 90 yards to score a touchdown. Like, that's brutal for an offense that's struggling. So give them a momentum shift. You know, and this defense, that's the one complaint. They've been great. They got to find a way to force more turnovers, though.
Yeah, as we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers riding this ship, it's big game in Germany headed into the bye week. And to be honest, a week ago we were talking about this Bucs team sitting at 3-5, looking down the barrel of 3-6. They got the win that they needed against LA, and honestly, they probably cleansed some demons with that one. Guys like Tom Brady and everyone else who's been on this roster for the past 2 years at least has wanted to get a win against this Rams team for a very long time. So that's got to feel good. I think the effort aspect that we talked about at the start of the podcast, I know that Tom Brady mentioning it on the podcast was not the first that those guys had heard about their shitty effort on the field so far this season. But we talk about this turnaround. Let's wrap things up on the podcast today with the quarterback himself, Tom Brady. 10 touchdowns to 1 interception on the year. Second in the NFL right now. Second in the NFL right now in passing yards. Certainly doesn't feel like it, but let me just reiterate that. Second in the NFL in passing yards right now. So, they've been able to move the ball on offense, but the problem, just like we had talked about, is scoring points in the end zone. Does that change this week? I think Tom has another great week. I hate to say I think he's starting to feel better, but to be honest, now that, I don't like to acknowledge it on the pod, but now that his business is kind of, it's done, you know what I mean? Officially, he doesn't have to worry. It's out in the open. He made a statement. He can put that behind him, and he can focus on the job that he has to do because he's Tom Brady. He doesn't take it lightly. He doesn't take for granted the season. He doubled down this week. People had asked him if he had regretted coming out of retirement, and he said he absolutely does not. He knows the commitment he made to this team, but for the turnaround to continue coming into this week, a lot of people think this is going to be a huge game for Tom Brady as he kind of gets his bearings back, if you will. James, what do you think for TB12 coming into this week?
Yeah, I remember I was looking this up, and Tom Brady has thrown 398 passes so far this year, which leads the NFL by, I think, like 30. I think the next one's Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, one of the two. And it's incredible, right? Like he has the passing attempts, he has the passing yards, but he just doesn't have the touchdowns right now, and that's something
he threw the ball 58 times in that game against LA. I mean, 58 times, James. I'm pretty sure that's the most passes he has ever thrown in a single game in a Bucs uniform.
Yeah, I don't know what the record is for most pass attempts in a season, but good Lord, Tom, he's on something. So no, I think the biggest thing, the yards aren't a problem. The passing attempts aren't the problem. It's just the idea of, again, just scoring. And I know that sounds simple, and it's definitely not. It's a lot more complicated than just score more points. There's a lot that goes into that, of course. But that's been the biggest thing there, is just scoring touchdowns. I think Tom's like 18th right now in terms of passing touchdowns. He's like 40th in terms of passing interceptions, which that tells you there are backups throwing more interceptions than Tom Brady. So it's just the biggest thing right there is just scoring points. So can Tom do it? Of course he can. We've seen it before. Heck, we know that Tom Brady still has that magic in him. He did it against the LA Rams. In that final drive, it's just an idea of putting it together, executing, and just doing what you need to do to score some points, because the yardage is there, the attempts are there. Just got to start converting some of those field goals to touchdowns, I think. And I feel like there is an opportunity to do that here against the Seahawks team. They do have some young pieces on that defense, but I think there is a chance there for Brady to really get some work done in terms of rebounding a little bit on offense.
Before we get into game picks and officially wrap this thing up, let's go down to the podium for the first time in a while and get some comments from Coach Wanish. Our buddy David Cardona, the moderator holding it down, says, Coach Wanish press conference. Coach, I just wanted to relay some things over to you and continue the topic of Tom Brady, your quarterback coming into this one. His divorce, it's out there. It is what it is. Everybody's got their own dirty laundry. And for Tom, this is a pretty public breakup, but now that is behind him, how do you think he can just continue to improve this team at this point in the year?
I think Tom just needs to continue being Tom. We all know Tom. We all love Tom, and every day he comes to work, goes in the film room, the practice room.
I can see clearly you're one of his biggest supporters with the TB12 hat here.
Everybody loves Tom. I mean, we're selling Brady merchandise here. So he's just got to continue being him, and he's been that way the entire year. You're looking at a guy, you would think he's in the happiest marriage of his life because this man comes to work with a smile every day, and we got to go out there and win a football game. He knows that, and he's going to do what it takes to win the football game and get us back on track here.
You love to hear it. All right, Bucs favored by 3 this week. This is like 2 months in a row that I think the Bucs have been favored in every single game this season, which is incredible. I know they set some records for losing a bunch of games that they were favored in, one of the first teams to ever do that in history. But as we look at Tampa Bay favored by 3 this week, James, let me get your game prediction first for Tampa Bay. Final score from Germany this week?
I was not ready for this. I'm gonna.
That's why I love putting you on the spot because I knew you weren't paying attention.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I think the Buccaneers will win with a final score of 28-24. I think
that's a lot of offense. You think they figure it out this week?
Yeah,
it's a lot of points.
Well, hey, it is what it is. It's Guten Tag. It's Germany. Maybe some magic happens over there. Maybe Seahawks actually haven't had a problem scoring points this year.
No.
But I
think had a problem preventing them though.
Maybe it takes an international. Well, see, to the point there. Hey! So I think that they're going to be able to score some points against Seahawks defense. That they gave up 45 to the Lions, something along those lines, a crap ton of points. And maybe it takes playing in an international game for them to
maybe it takes playing in an international game to get a turnover.
Perhaps. So we'll see.
Tom Brady also undefeated in his career in international games.
The Bucs have never won.
Yeah, the Bucs are not so lucky. So something's got to give this week.
It's
Evan,
gonna be a tie.
Yeah, just to mess everybody's week up. Let me get a real prediction. Do you think Brady continues his undefeated streak, or you think the Bucs fall to 4-6 at the bye week, which is also going to go a long way?
I mean, I just said that they are going to win, so I don't know what you want.
I was talking
me to
Evan.
say. Oh, okay.
It's not always about you.
It's not the James Hill show.
Yeah, well, maybe I want it to be.
All right. Well, the Sun's taking over the podcast.
Go bake in the sun. Anyways, before we get completely engulfed by the sun, you're the only one wearing sunglasses. You're prepared. This is a tough one to predict. Like every single game, I think I've had an idea of how the game's gonna go.
It's tough this year.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Seattle's still not very talented on paper. Like it shouldn't make sense. Like
they shouldn't be 6-3.
It should be like opposite. They should be 3-6. Like it's difficult. I think the Bucs are gonna win. it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be lower scoring than his. I'm going to go 20-17. The Bucs win. They're going to squeak one out. I think Ryan Suckup might hit a late field goal. Maybe it's tied at 17. Suckup hits a late field goal, give him the lead. The defense holds on. This is a game where, if the Bucs win, you can kind of, one, if the Bucs win, they'll be really sitting pretty in the NFC South because the Falcons lost on Thursday night. So not only did the Bucs win the tiebreaker, they would be up a whole game now. So there would be a big win there. If you win this game, we looked at after the Carolina game, I looked at it and said, look, you have 3 games here, Baltimore, LA, and then Seattle. I said, if you want any chance to make the playoffs, you have to win 2 or 3. Now you have a chance to do that. And I think if you win 2 or 3, you can really calm the nerves. So I think they're going to go out and do that. I don't think it's going to be easy. There's going to be some nervous time during this game, but I think they're just going to squeak one out because there's no reason for me to believe that they're going to beat Seattle, but also there's no reason for me to believe that Seattle should be 6-3. So that's why I'm going to pick the Bucs to win. So it wouldn't surprise me either way. Like if they lose to Seattle, it's not, oh my God, they lost to the Seahawks. Like Seahawks are 6-3. Like,
yeah, they are. Listen, I know I mentioned it at the start of the show, but I think a lot of people can look at the Seahawks, and with Pete Carroll having the year that he is, like they're one of the best coached teams in the NFL right now, and their record is clearly an indication of that. When you got teams like the Giants who are 6-7 wins into this year with Brian Dable, it's coaching. You know what I mean? Making the best plays with the guys you have available. Like it all factors into that.
And that's what sort of scares me a little bit, that might separate. We even saw Mike Tomlin a few weeks ago with Pittsburgh. All those players were down for Pittsburgh's defense, and they still found a way. So I think Seattle's coaching staff has the edge, but I just think that talent-wise, the Bucs have the edge. And Tom Brady's undefeated record in international games will surpass the Bucs' losing record in international games, and this is the first ever game in Germany. So the Bucs will be 1-0 in Germany. Guten Tag, as they would say, right?
Yes. I want to say this too. Like this game could make a
okay, Dracula.
Yes, very good. Now I want to say this. Okay, look, this game could make now let me say this. Hold on. This game can make a world of difference for the Bucs.
Hey,
right?
Shout out really quick. Sorry to cut you off, but a $5 super chat from our boy Mikey says Seahawks defense is very young. Brady might be able to pick them apart.
Clap it up for Mikey really quick. Yeah, there you go. Very good.
But anyway, no, this game can make a world of a difference for the Bucs season, right? This is going to be a war between two guys, two high-powered offenses, and there's been too many missed opportunities from this offense in past games with Steelers, with the Panthers, and I think they are going to be able to turn it around and going to be able to score some points.
James, let me ask you an honest question. How long have you been waiting to do that?
To do what?
You know.
No.
You know
what
what you're... All right, don't worry about it then.
Show's over.
All right, well, let me get my pick out there. Bucs favored by 3 this week. I don't know what the over-under is, so I won't be able to give you that. But I got Tampa Bay, and I got both teams scoring 20-plus this week, believe it or not. But I do have the Buccaneers squeaking by with a field goal win. 24-21, my final score. And I think the Bucs go into the bye week 5-5. And just like you talked about, James, that's going to go a really, really long way. One more $2 super chat from our boy Mikey. Jared Goff dropped 378 yards and 4 touchdowns on this defense. Let's not forget that as well.
He's so dedicated to helping us. He dropped money just to help us prove a point. That he gave money to say, like, look, like these guys got to see this. And like we appreciate you, Mikey.
No, yeah. Honestly, I mean, we sit here a lot. I pick the Bucs to win. There's our picks. Everybody taking Tampa Bay this week.
Yeah, that's the least surprising thing in the world.
Yeah. Guys, we are 300 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, 300 and some change. Let's not forget, like we have had some unofficial numbered podcasts, but this is what we're going to call the big 300. And if you've been listening long enough, it's about time that I own up to something. So a little while ago, I realized that I made a mistake. At some point, I'm not sure when. I think it was right around episode 157.
Episode 157. That's a while ago.
It was a while ago, and I noticed a little recently. So I messed up the numbers. So this is like technically 300. but it's technically like 301 because
it's 300. It's 300.
We had like 2 episode 157s for a while, so I got to go back and I got to kind of sort that out and fix it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is unofficially episode 300. We started this podcast all the way back in late 2016, was like the first form of this podcast, and the fact that is 6, almost 7 years ago now just kind of blows my mind. The growth that we have had, the people who continue to listen to this podcast, just a couple of idiots on here talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We truly do appreciate you guys like Nestor checking in every week, Willie Beeman, the moderator, holding it down, David
Mikey,
Cardona, Mikey
Joel,
V,
Tony Baloney, even though we
haven't
disagree.
had a whole lot of Tony Baloney this season. I think Tony Baloney may have jumped ship on us, but regardless,
we still appreciate the support, though.
Still appreciate you guys checking us out. If you are new to the channel, subscribe if you have not for more great Tampa Bay Buccaneers content. But looking to keep this thing trucking for 300 more episodes and maybe beyond. It's been one hell of a ride.
It's been crazy that we've gotten to this point. Surprised that we 300 episodes. Like, that just feels like huge, and couldn't really done it without any of you guys, because look, if the podcast wasn't really successful, we probably wouldn't have even gotten to 100. So we thank you all. You guys are the reason we reached 300. So thank you all for the support, and we got a lot of exciting things coming. No matter what the team does, win, lose, or draw, you guys know that we'll be here no matter what. So
follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host, Evan Wanish, over here on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL, and check out his written work at BucsNation.com. Shout out once again to our honorary third member of the show, is what we called him for a long time. And safe to say he is here with us on episode 300. Glad to have you here, James Hill of BucsNation.com. Any final words, my friend?
Yeah, I was the third member.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. James Hill.
Yeah, we'll play him off.
I was the third member until Sean King replaced me, but it's
well, it's nothing personal. Did
you ever play professional quarterback? Or?
I have a confession to make for me. No, I'm very happy to be here. Thank you guys for letting me be a part of the third 100.
You were the third member before Sean King was the third. This whole thing's falling apart.
Thank you, Sean King. The sun's been hitting me too much. I'm happy to be here. Oh, actually, a lot of people might not know this, but that's actually how I got to meet you guys, was through your guys' podcast and seeing you guys at Bucs training camp, and we've been friends for a handful of years now, and it's fantastic work you guys do. Friends. Fantastic work that you guys do here on the podcast, and really happy that you guys were able to get to 300. I mean, the growth that I've seen from you guys has been awesome. So hopefully there's another 300, down the line. So great work.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us over on YouTube.com or listening over on the audio version of the pod. You guys are truly the backbone of this whole thing.
If you're listening to the audio, though, go check it on YouTube. See the live stream. We don't get to do this really at all. Right. Yeah. So like the in-person stuff is, when we're able to do it, it's pretty special. So, and this is the second live show that you've done in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. We had the watch party at Berry House. Me and James were out there, and that was a Carolina game. So
and
3 weeks ago,
you're having another watch party.
Yeah.
After the bye week, right? Fresh off the bye week. I know to pick the Browns in that game then.
You son of a bitch. Yeah, so we are looking to avoid going 0-3 at the Cannon Fire watch party. If the Bucs go 0-3, that's probably going to be the end of the Cannon Fire watch party.
Might have to sacrifice it for the greater good.
Right. I think we might have to look at, I know what I have to do. I just don't know if I have the strength to do it, kind of thing. But we'll see how that plays out. That should be a lot of fun. November 27th, Berry House Beer Company, beautiful Ybor City. I don't know if James is going to be there. Maybe not.
It might be too big time.
Yeah, I know. He made big time us like he tried to last time, but that should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys again. And listen, thank you, both of my co-hosts here, Evan and James, for sweating this thing out with me as we are poolside from beautiful.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
From an undisclosed location, we are poolside. We can't. There was some discussion about a hot tub podcast. There was some discussion. We decided against it because we didn't want to burn. Okay.
We ended up burning anyway.
Yeah, well, it's true. But, we appreciate all you guys. And, thanks a lot for all the support over the years. And hopefully, just like, Rhett and James said, hopefully here's the 300 more.
All right. Let's go get a goddamn snack. Follow the show on social media, Facebook,
Rather
Instagram, and Twitter, Cannon Fire Podcast. Check out Evan, Instagram, and Twitter. Find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Check out his written work at BucksNation.com. You can also find James and his content, Mr. Bucks Nation, on YouTube.
One time for the one time.
Yeah.
you did the outros again.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. All right, last
this is
but not
great. If you want the blooper reel, this is it right here.
I mean, go check me out on YouTube, and I write articles for BucksNation.com.
Yes, we said this.
Sometimes he writes articles.
Say for the people in the back.
Yeah.
Sometimes he forgets to put in a prediction like he did this week too.
Sometimes. Every week.
All right. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish and James Hill. We will talk to you guys tomorrow after the game on Sunday. Evan, I don't know if you're going to be on there for that one. We might put you back on suspension. The cops were looking for you today, so that is definitely going to be noted moving forward. But I will definitely be live. James may be there. Can we count on you being there?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, we'll see. Tomorrow, after the game, win, lose, or draw, youtube.com/Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you guys once again for 300 episodes. Hoping for 300 more. We'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching, and go Bucks.